get started now. Good morning, I'm Victoria and I'm the recruiter for the undergraduate programs at the DeGroote School of Business. And I want to welcome all of you to our area focus webinar on human resources and management at the DeGroote School of Business, otherwise known as HR. So before we jump into this, I just want to give you an idea of what an area focus is. So some of you are current students already, and hopefully you know what that means, but some of you might be applicants and you're not sure what an area focus means yet. So at DeGroote, the first 2 years are general. So you're taking courses from all areas of business, and then you're able to choose an area of focus if you want, or you can stay general. So we have different webinars on each of our areas of focus. Today is our HR area of focus. So this gives you an idea of what it would look like if you decide to choose this as your area after your first 2 years. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, you can put that in the Q&A. And throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, just use the Q&A along the bottom, and we'll get to those answers at the end of the webinar. We'll have lots of time for questions, so make sure you ask everything that you're wondering right now about HR. So today you probably see that I'm joined by a few other lovely ladies. Today I'm joined by 2 of our faculty and 1 of our current DeGroote students. So starting off our presentation today is Dr. Teal McAteer. Dr. McAteer is a business consultant who also teaches as a professor in the DeGroote School of Business. As a professor at DeGroote, Dr. McAteer teaches undergraduate, graduate, and executive level courses in organizational behavior, human resource management, leadership, organizational, individual level change, and business ethics. We would also like to welcome Dr. Francis Tuer, who's an assistant professor at the DeGroote School of Business. Dr. Tuer has taught a wide range of courses at both the undergraduate and graduate level. Dr. Tuer's specific commerce courses have included organizational behavior, introduction to human resource management, international organizational behavior, and human resource management, recruitment and selection, just to name a few. So after the formal HR presentation, we'll also hear from Lauryn, who's a 3rd-year student at the DeGroote School of Business. Lauryn is a member of the DeGroote Human Resources Association, or DHRA, and she is the co-president. She's also competed as part of our JDCC DeGroote team, and she's been working on the revision of the DCS Constitution and hiring bylaws. So with that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Tuer, and please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A as we go. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to bring up the slides, and then Teal is actually going to kick us off.
Thanks, Francis. I appreciate that. Okay, everyone. So welcome to the most important area there is. And I'm smiling and giggling at the same time, but I want to be able to explain to you why I believe that strongly. So when we think of human resource management, can you move to the next slide, Francis? Just because we know it's about people. And when we talk about, what is a resource, and the title of human resource management, twist it around a little bit and say it's the managing of human resources. And why is this so important? And we can talk about all sorts of resources: money, equipment, land, buildings, but quite frankly, unless you're 100% robotics, the managing of people properly with corporate social responsibility is probably the most important one there is. So when I think of you out there trying to decide, shall I do a broad Bachelor of Commerce, or should I focus in on a particular area, I'm a little biased, no surprise, on the area of HRM, because I see it as so meaningful for 3 reasons, or what we might say as 3 directions. So the obvious one, and I don't think I'm committing projection for the students who I've taught, human resource management as a functional area of expertise. So if you focus on that area, perhaps that's the direction you wish to go. I wish to be in the human resource management area for an organization, large, medium, or small. And what kinds of things are you doing? You're recruiting, selecting, training and development, performance management, delivering and preparing for performance appraisals. You're doing compensation schemes and development of compensation schemes. You're doing everything right from what we call the beginning to the discipline to discharge, grooming, getting groomed in how to properly bring people on board, and if necessary to handle a dismissal. So you could choose this area of focus and go further, and Dr. Tuer is going to talk to you a little bit about the next steps in a certification process over and above your Bachelor of Commerce, if that's a direction you wish to go. But that's only one for why this is so important. The second direction is, I believe, and I'll have my colleague hopefully support me on this, is I believe every manager, every leader in an organization should know everything that I just mentioned. We should know how to recruit, how to select, how to performance manage these people, how to properly train and develop them. This week, I'm doing with a lot of you how to orient and socialize people, how to get them used to the culture. So if this is something that you believe in as I do and as Dr. Tuer does, these are courses, this is a focus area that will be demanded of, in my opinion, to make you a good manager and leader, is how you manage your human capital and your social capital. And I love this slide that says it's very rare and hard to copy. So why not, slow down to speed up? I often use that expression, and understand how to manage people. And every manager and leader in an organization should be able to do that. And if you do it well, then you'll retain. You'll have high level retention with really well matched people. The third and final area where all of this stuff is very important, and those of you who I've taught or who I'm teaching, this is my area of what I love, and that's the field of consulting. So there are 3 directions that you could go with this focus. 1, as I said, human resource management for an organization. 2, I believe all this stuff is very important for every manager, no matter whether you go into finance, marketing, operations, wherever you go. But number 3, wouldn't it be cool if down the road you decided to be a consultant, either with a firm or on your own, in the area of human resource management? So what do we call that? Jobs in the area of organizational development or organizational change, where you're brought on board by an organization, whether it be a consulting organization or you're on your own, and you're brought into an organization as a potential client, and they look at you and say, we are having problems with recruiting, proper matching of people. We're having trouble with training and development. We're having difficulty with performance management systems. How cool would that be if that ends up being the line of work that you're in a consulting area? So I'm pretty biased. I think it's the coolest of them all. The courses that we would say are required, and then I'm going to hand it over to my dear colleague, Dr. Tuer, to tell you a little bit more about the HR electives. But we ask that you take organizational behavior, and many of you are already taking it with me or have taken it. We then, in second year, Commerce 2BC3, phenomenal course. It's strategic human resource management. And interesting, look at the word we put in front of human resource management, strategic, because here's what we know. If an organization can take care of its people and manage its culture properly, and if the culture matches the organization's vision, mission, strategy, and goals, guess what? The assets of that match get translated to the bottom line, which means that we can see productivity improvements, we can see turnover down, we can see absenteeism down, we can see OCBs up. The good news is you match those 2 things, the human resource management strategically matched with the organization's vision, mission, strategy. And that's what that course is all about. Very cool course. And then third year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Francis, 2021-22, this is the last time we have.
Is the last time.
3SO3 management skills, phenomenal course. It's being transitioned into what we're calling a negotiations course starting in 2022. So those are the basics. That's the groundwork that we ask you to participate in. And now I'm going to hand it to Dr. Tuer to tell you about the other courses.
Thank you, Teal. Yes, delighted to meet with all of you today and see you. I'm in here in my basement, so it's so nice to be talking to people. I've been in my basement a lot for the last year. Anyway, you get off to a great start. Organizational behavior is one of the highly rated courses at McMaster. We limit the enrollment to commerce students and a few other selected groups, but we have people all over the university trying to get into organizational behavior. So great foundation to understanding people, as Teal said, then managing people. So then we have the elective courses. So strategic HR 2BC3 we'll touch on all of these. And then we have this set of courses where we go deeper into each one of these areas. And right now I'm teaching most of them. Hopefully that won't be the case over the next few years, but right now I'm teaching most of them just because of the way people are coming and going right now. And so here again, you can then think about choosing something that is relevant to you. So regardless if you're thinking of going into HR, like Dr. McAteer was saying, you can just pick a course. Now you can also do all of them. So these are all numbered as 4th year courses, but you start taking them in 3rd year. Okay, so as soon as you've done 2BC3, you can sign up for any of these courses. And as you can see, we have quite a list of different ones. And don't rule out collective bargaining. Canada is a very unionized country compared to a lot of other countries, you know, with a public sector, education, parts of manufacturing, healthcare. Yeah, we are quite a unionized country. So you don't know where you're going to end up in terms of a company. You know, if you go into operations or you're into finance or you're into whatever, you still need to know, right, this context. But we have lots of choices here. One of the things that you want to think about and take a look as you're starting to move into this is, when are they offered? So this fall, I know this is ahead for you guys, but just to give you an example, this fall I'm teaching 3 sections of recruitment and selection, and that's a super popular course. And then this coming winter, 2022, I'll be teaching 2 sections of strategic HR planning and 2 sections of occupational health and safety. Health and safety is loads of fun because we get to talk about gory stuff. So we have all of these things. Now, as Dr. McAteer mentioned earlier, right, we have compensation as well. All of the courses that we have, OB, strategic HRM, and then all of our electives are HRPA approved. And we'll talk about certification in a minute, but just wanted to tell you that right from the get-go, that we have external validation for the courses that we have put together. And that can be a benefit whether or not you're going to go. So you have choices. You can do all of them. You can do some of them, whatever it is that you would like to do. And if you choose, they will count towards the coursework for an HR designation. So the relevant body, as you see on the left here, is the Human Resources Professional Association, HRPA. That's a Canadian organization. In the United States, it's called SHRM, SHRM. Here in Canada, HRPA, it's a national designation. As you see on the right, there are 3 levels of designation. You start with the CHRP or CHPR, depending on where you are in Canada, and that's the intro kind of level. Now, to get that designation, you need 2 things. One is coursework, and the other is work experience. It used to be you could just show up to do the exam, and they cut that out a few years ago. So we have lots of alumni. I was just on LinkedIn the other day finding alumni who are in HR, and we have a ton of people. And some of them are pursuing this and some are not. So Shalina, actually, she just graduated 2 years ago, just announced on LinkedIn that she has completed her CHRP successfully. And now actually she's working on her CHRL, which is the next level of human resource leader. And then the following level after that is human resource executive. So in HR, it's not all about, you know, data entry. It's the very progressive, a very strategic career, and people who would like to rise up in the HR function can make very good money. So, you know, think about those kinds of things and the way you would like to go. The other piece of education I just want to mention for a minute is about MBA. I know this is early days again, but if you're thinking maybe I'd like to go into graduate school, the top people in HR and companies today often have an MBA. And so that's kind of something else to think about as well. So
just one thing.
Go ahead.
I loved that you mentioned the MBA. I did what was called an MIR, a Master's in Relations. It's offered only, well, U of T is where I did mine, and I think there's 2 other schools in Canada. But this is just a little hint that many of the courses that you're doing towards the designation in HRPA on Ontario for sure, are used as advanced standing in the MIR. So you know what, you're working towards something bigger at the same time. Just a hint.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Teal, because actually I forgot. Every year I write reference letters for students who are going to apply to those programs, and they're often successful, not just because of my reference letter, because they're great people. But yeah, there definitely are routes into, you know, graduate study that would then take you in a number of different directions. Who knows, you might end up being Teal or I at some point. That would be fantastic. So this is, you know, this is a route. Now, if you're not thinking about this, don't worry, I have other stuff for you. A lot of our courses link up with other areas of focus. So it's not like cross-listed or anything. It won't count towards their thing, but it's a common application. So, for example, if you are a numbers person, there is plenty of room for people with numbers background and quantitative skills and data analytics skills in HR. So compensation, which is about a pay, is about employee benefits, is about incentive programs, is about all of those kinds of things. How are we going to reward people? Stock options, employee share purchase plans, you name it. There's plenty of room for people there. Strategic HR planning is a macro level HR course where we look at the entire workforce, and I'm teaching that one right now. And that's another one where you need to understand what the impact of workforce level things are. So we just finished a forecasting module where they had to calculate how many people will you need if there's this amount of strategic growth, where are you going to put those people in terms of different jobs, how much is that going to cost, all of those kinds of things. So there's kind of a bit of a myth that, you know, you only need to like people if you get into to go into HR. That is so not true. My daughter's graduating vet school in 2 months, and you know, you don't get into vet school because you like animals. You got to have other stuff. And one of the things you need to have in HR is you need to be able to work the numbers and talk the numbers, right, with people who are in finance accounting. Now, one of the most common crossovers is the recruitment and selection. Recruitment of people, going out to find people, make them aware there's an opportunity with your company, is very analogous to marketing, right? It's about finding the right people, like finding the right customer, we find the right job seeker, and then choosing people, right? We don't want people who will not take the job. So, you know, it's like when you go into a store, right? They try to sense if you're actually going to buy something. So if you like marketing, huge opportunities. One of the things that you find out when you talk to people who are in HR is they came in through a whole bunch of different ways. So you can come through, you know, this kind of way, but people hop over often. I have a student right now who had just said to me the other day, I thought I was going into marketing, but I'd really like to come over to HR. And I went, yay! But it's, you know, the application of that. If you are a production kind of person, and everybody who is in the company somewhere should understand what's happening on the production side. Then collective bargaining, in case you're working with unionized workforces. Health and safety, definitely. Training and development. So do you want to hire people who have all the skills? What if you can't find them? What are you going to put in terms of training and development? And so we teach you how to develop and design effective training programs and how to measure success. If you are a big picture person, then again, the strategic HR planning, looking at those external factors, what is happening in the world that could affect our competitive advantage? How many people will we need? What if we need fewer people? You know, technology, politics, economics, all of those kinds of things. Now, I want to hand it back to my lovely colleague again, because we also in the HR management area offer leadership.
Thanks, Frances. We have 2 courses. I'll do the one at the bottom first. The Principles of Leadership is grounded in theory and research. So we're taking a good look there at all the models and the frameworks for leadership behavior, just so that, and I think that's a really great one to take. The one that I teach is the leadership development. For those of you who I have taught, I think I've told you a little bit about this one. It's much more of what it's based on, something called transformative learning. So at the base of this course is really asking the question, who are you as a leader in life, in both your personal and your professional life? And I take you through a journey within the 12 weeks, a 6-week journey that allows you to identify through a lot of diagnostics, some of the areas in terms of stress management, your thinking styles, your character foundation pieces, Strengths Finder. What are the areas that I really would like to develop in and work on to be better upon graduation? So it was developed because a lot of my executives in my consulting practice said, I wish I could go through something before it happens, before I'm told that I need to develop some of these skills, or before I get fired. So it's kind of a cool journey-like course. Those are obviously not mandatory, but it is an elective.
No, there's are great things. I was in banking for 15 years before I transferred to an academic career. I never got any of this stuff. You know, I didn't get it in my education, and I didn't get it in my 15 years at banking till I was almost done. So it's great that we're giving you these opportunities. And certainly, you know, if you go to sign up for these things later on, they cost you a lot of money. So I know you think tuition is expensive, but the cost of professional courses is kind of crazy money too. So we try to put these things in. And also, you know, we're including more things in the first year that we're then taking through the program and that really get then explored, right, when we get get into the leadership development and those things the other end. So it's not just take it once, never hear about it again, right? These things continue through stuff like strategies, stuff like self-awareness, right? Self-management, all of those kinds of things that are going on. Again, just want to mention to you, we have alumni in many different roles in many different organizations. Monica, who was on the OBCC, which is a case competition team with me a few years ago, joined the Canadian Olympic Association as an HR person. We have people in organizational change, organizational development. We have people who are working in recruiting roles, who are working health and safety roles. We have people in the government, people working for small businesses. We have people working for not-for-profits. There's just all kinds of things. My current TA for occupational health and safety, Andrew, is over at the Health Sciences Center right now, McMaster. He's in the MBA program at DeGroote, and he's doing organizational change and development on his internship right now. So yeah, many different possibilities kind of come off this. HR has a lot of myths about, what you need, but today's HR people need to be smart, savvy people who understand, right, the competitive environment, who can create value for the organization, who can use numbers, and really, are strategic partners. Those jobs of data entry, they've all been automated or outsourced, right? So that's not what we're talking about today. Okay, so that's the end of what we're going to say for now. But again, I think Teal and I and everybody else who is in HR, and there are great professional communities as well. I always recommend that students join the local chapter of the HRPA, because you do networking. They stand up and say, we're hiring for such and such, right? You say, I'm looking for such and such. And if you volunteer with those organizations, it shows willing. Right? It shows, yes, I'm kind of committed. But again, doesn't matter what you're going into. Here's our foundation, is that everything's centered on the people. You can have fantastic technology, but if you have nobody to maintain that technology, if you have nobody to design new products, if you have people who can't sell to people, the whole thing falls apart. So everybody else in their area of focus thinks they're super important. We know that everything begins with the people that you have. And at this point, then I'm going to hand it off, stop sharing and hand it off to Lauryn to tell you more about how to get involved.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. McAteer and Dr. Tuer. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about what the DHRA does. So as Victoria mentioned, it's the DeGroote Human Resources Association, and we're just the student-run club that focuses on the HR profession. And essentially what we aim to do is help complement your academic experience. So we offer everything from some study strategies that pertain to HR in the classroom and exposure to human resources through information sessions, and we host case competitions, experiential learning events, and even networking throughout the year. So of course, this year we were in a virtual capacity and we ran all these events virtually, but I think I could speak a little bit to some of our members getting involved outside of the classroom, using our events as pinpoints to that. So as a student myself in third year, I can speak from experience, and I know we might have been having some difficulties just building our network this year and securing some career chats or professional touch points, which are really crucial to maybe discovering what kind of industry you're interested in and in the area of focus too, and what that looks like. But throughout the year, we hosted multiple webinars, and we'd have HR professionals as panelists, anywhere from IBM to Hamilton Health Sciences. So if you do have interests that kind of range beyond HR, you can really explore those as it takes you through different avenues. And what we found that was, because they were a little more on the informal side and students were comfortable asking questions throughout and connecting with the professionals maybe at the end and afterwards, that the students had a positive experience, but as well, the professionals did connect with me after, and they said that they were really impressed by the student engagement, and also that it spoke volumes that students would send a LinkedIn message and try to establish a relationship after the event, and not just messaging them about a job posting that's come up, because there is that initiative to build a relationship. And I think kind of exploring that option through what we offer, whether it's connecting with the judges from our case competitions or the panelists, as I said, from some of our webinars. That's kind of an example of what some of our events encourage. And it can be really beneficial to attend something like this, where it's an event that feels comfortable and you hopefully find it valuable, but it also can spark a really important part of your professional development. And there's a lot more to, I guess, hear and maybe read about the DHRA if you want to check out our social media and our website. So I can post that in the chat and also link some things. Yeah, I'll post it in the chat. But maybe there's some more specific questions about either what Professor Tuer and Professor McAteer spoke about or about what the DHRA offers. So I'll open the floor up, I guess.
Nice stuff.
So we have some questions now. We've got some questions in the Q&A that I can ask. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put in the Q&A or in the chat and we'll get to those. The first question, this is probably from one of the previous slides. Are all the courses that were on this slide electives? So not sure which slide that was.
Okay, so
they were divided into what were required, and there's 3 of them. And then the second half was all electives. I think I'm right, Francis?
yeah, that was right. We had 2 slides. So as Teal just said exactly, right? There's 3 courses you have to take. Everybody has to take. Then there's a set of electives. And then the next slide after that was combinations, right? Where you might have an interest in another area or you're staying general. Then, you know, those were the electives we were talking about on that particular screen match up with, you know, it's not unusual to have more than one interest. So those were what those ones were. I hope that clarifies that question for you.
And the next question is, does the DeGroote MBA program have a specialization in HR?
Not at this time. That would be lovely, but not at this time.
I like that. The next one is, how is the COVID situation impacting HR and what's in the future for HR?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to say, Teal, why don't you start? Because, you know, you're talking to companies. I have a perspective too, but I'd love to hear yours first.
The first word that came to mind was hot. There is so much going on. I mean, my field, those of you know, I work with people that have been displaced, people that have lost their jobs, and there has been a lot of that for a variety of reasons. So then now I can honestly tell you, I have a number of clients. The accounting market is hot right now. HR is, in terms of recruiting and selection and training and development and offering different schemes for motivation and compensation and reward systems, there's major transition going on. So I would say these are going to be positions that are going to be opening up for sure. What do you think, Francis?
I think it's affected right from the get-go, because one of the first decisions people had to make is, if my business is shutting down or reduced, who am I going to let go? And this is what we talk about in strategic HR planning, right? Is if you let them go, are they going to come back? Are there ways to keep some of those key people, right, in a lesser role? During the Great Depression, actually, my grandfather was a train driver, and they kept him on sweeping the platform, right? Because those skilled people, you know, you don't want to lose them to something else. So that's been happening. Certainly, the whole process of video interviewing is a big deal. In my recruitment and selection class, I have people answer assignment questions on video, because you have to get comfortable being recorded and, you know, having that nice line between professional and natural. So that has certainly been happening. Now that comes along with a whole bunch of concerns about equity, diversity, and inclusion. Of course, HR, that is one of our main things, is about equity, diversity, and inclusion. So if you see somebody on the screen, you know, research says some bias is going to often kind of creep in. Last fall, my recruitment and selection students did a series of articles on discrimination against members of the Black community when they're seeking jobs, all the way through the process. This term, we're doing appearance-based discrimination. The reading for this week that my TA Ali just posted is about piercings and tattoos. So technology right, is fantastic for HR, but there's two sides to technology. And what about access for people who don't, right, have easy access? The libraries were closed. So how do people who don't have devices at home, which is actually more people than you would think, access these things? Where's our equality of opportunity? Yeah, you know, what's picked up in terms of training? And, you know, how can you afford some of the commitments that you made financially to employees? You know, pensions are money that employees give up in return for future dollars. You have to fund those pension obligations as you go along. So there's a lot of people now running the thing. So yeah, probably every single area of HR has had to step up. And then how do we bring people back in? What types of jobs are we now offering? I've been talking to a lot of students, you know, who are a bit concerned they're graduating in a month. So I'm saying go broad, you know, look at short-term work. There are postgraduate internships that are more popular before because companies are not making those firm commitments. So yeah, there's lots happening. Now, the thing about, you know, jobs is people are always focusing on the jobs lost. There are jobs created out of change technology, out of economic events. There are new jobs created, right? And new skills, and data analytics and workforce analytics, very hot, very, very hot. So I would totally agree with you, Teal. Tremendous changes and opportunities happening because of COVID.
The next two questions are probably some follow-ups to this. Do you see HR becoming a pandemic safe career in the future? And do you think it can be done remotely and from home?
Yes and no. Teal, what do you think? Yes and no?
That's exactly my sentiment was yes and no. Pandemic safe.
Yeah, you don't have to go. I mean, yes, you could do recruitment and selection, but there's a lot of research in recruitment and selection about that personal contact, right? A lot of campus recruiting, you know, you like to get in there. Applicants like to be in the same room with people who are making the decision. They like to pitch themselves. So there's certainly, I think it can mitigate, but there are things like, I think, you know, like coaching, right, Teal? Coaching and mentoring and, you know, to some degree training, where I you know, a lot of us are at the digital fatigue right now. It's not just students, it's also faculty. Yeah, there's benefits to having people, you know, in a room together. But yeah, I think we definitely have options here in HR where you could work from home. And I think the other thing about it is not just it being in HR and working from home, but, you know, the conversation right now is how many people actually do need to come back to work these days? How many people could keep working from home and the benefits of that? So yeah, I think there definitely are some opportunities, but you want to think very carefully, and as we've been saying since the beginning, very strategically about how does that fit our strategy, right? What is our value proposition, and how to do that. So yeah, well, yeah, that's a yes and a no.
Yeah, I agree.
The next question is, what is the job outlook for human resources?
Well, it depends. I think it depends on which of the three slants, as I presented at the beginning, right? If you can say, what's it looking like if you're going into a human resource management traditional functional area of expertise? The other two, you've got to have this stuff. Like I don't see it as I think the study and practice of managing human resources strategically is an absolute must. And again, I'm speaking from my consulting lens. I have never seen so many opportunities in organizational change, transition management, organizational development, helping with motivation of employees, increased leadership coaching, increased power in politics, culture, like it's just running rampant. Now, maybe Frances, you could speak better to the traditional functional area expertise.
Let me do that. I mean, the big difference in HR really was a number of years ago when automation came in for online applications, right? Online, this, that, and the other thing, automation of benefits and payroll. So we've already taken kind of that hit off the bottom, semi-skilled layer. Is it a little slow right now? Possibly, but that's because a lot of companies have a hiring freeze on right now. And it's really kind of a holding back. And this is why I'm recommending to students right now, take short-term work. But yes, over time, the strategic value of HR, how to manage these up and downs, how to be ready. This will not be the last pandemic we ever have. There will be other shocks of various kinds. So I think what's happened here is people have realized, you need to have people who can do this stuff to manage all of these kinds of things. So I think short-term downturn, but again, in terms of the more strategic roles of HR, huge. You can work for a company, but you can also work for the outsourced company who handles benefits, right? So our benefits are not handled by McMaster University, right? They're handled by a third party. My husband's union benefits plans, his pensions, are all handled by a third party company. So there's lots of different ways in which you can get into the field of HR in many different ways. When I was just, talking to students over the last couple of weeks, and we were looking at different opportunities on Indeed, on Graduate Land, and other, forums, yeah, there's still HR jobs being posted. So yeah, I'm not seeing all of a sudden they've vanished off the landscape altogether. We also have an aging population. And so, I think there's a whole bunch of us are, not me, because, I like to buy stuff, so I'm be working for a while. But who are saying, okay, no, I've had enough of the workforce at this point. I think I'll just go on. So, there's always the replacement of people coming in, and the people we're looking for now a little bit different from the people before. So, yeah, I'm not going to say this is, the buggy whip occupation where there'll never be opportunities again, but I think you have to be creative. And as I say to students, you have to be very broad. You can do HR in all kinds of different contexts, everything from the government to corporations to small, medium businesses to you can consult to a group of micro businesses, to a business association, to nonprofits. You can, get into consulting, which has many different avenues, as Teal will tell you, right? So yeah, it's just what I say to students is don't keep chasing the same thing everybody else is chasing. Get a little bit more innovative and make connections. And I think this goes to what Lauryn was talking about. Make connections. The hidden job market's huge. Not a lot of jobs, not all the jobs are posted. And so you need to know that for any type of occupation. So sorry for the long answer there, but I'm really optimistic overall. But that's just me.
I like the comment you just made, don't just choose an area because that's what everybody else is choosing. And don't be afraid. Job postings and jobs that come in front of you don't necessarily match you. Like those of you who know me and listen to me in class, this is about digging deep. And I think that's why, I love my leadership course, because it forces you to say, what is it that interests me? I've got parents that are pressuring me into finance, or they want me to go into this direction because it'll pay more money. Let me tell you, short-term pain for long-term gain. Really think about things like, what are the interests that I have? What are the skills and attitudes and things that I really want to grow? What is it in terms of a profession I might like to do? Spend time on that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with Teal more. You can do any job short-term because it pays a lot and it's got a status name. You will not be happy. And that's one of the reasons I left banking. You need to find out, again, as Teal said, about you, what type of office environment, or do you want to work from home and have that? One of my sisters works for Scotiabank. She lives in Collingwood. She goes to the city once a month. What do you want to wear to work? This is kind of nice. Up to 5 minutes ago, I had my slippers on. What do you want to wear? Do you want to spend most of your paycheck having to buy, the super expensive shirt and suit? Maybe you do. How much do you want to travel? There's many things, right? You shouldn't have a hard separation between your work life and your personal life, right? You should be living the authentic you. And I think what's really important, I think Teal mentioned this too, is be you, right? Do not benchmark yourself of other people. And it's hard at this point, right? Because your parents, want the best for you. They want you to be safe financially and everything else. So yeah, you do get this pressure. And we do hear from students whose parents say, we'll only pay if you take this. And that's really unfortunate. But manage through that. And then, find out who you are. So one of the things I say to people is just put alerts on Indeed and watch jobs as they pop up and just skim them. And you will go, oh, that's interesting. And oh, that's no, totally not for me. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I was very good at accounting, very, very good. But then I started working on an accounting designation. I went, I cannot see myself doing this on a daily basis. One of my best friends was the controller for the Thames Valley District School Board in London, Ontario. Loved her job, absolutely loved her job. So it's got to be about it's about you and living kind of the authentic you and you know, and owning that, you know. So again, many ways in which you can get into this. Now, to the next question, what are the top companies for HR? There definitely are major HR consulting firms, Mercer, Towers, I've forgotten the other one, sorry, but we can, you know, provide that kind of information. What you want to look for more than a specific company is you want to have a look at what they say about their people. And you want to go on Glassdoor and places like that that will tell you about whether or not what they say on their website about how they manage people is how they manage people, and find those companies. There are there's an article that comes out every year or a couple of years, you know, 50 best companies to work for in either the GTA, or 50 best companies for minorities, or 50 best companies for women. And most of the time, what they're talking about in those ratings are the role of HR. It's benefits, it's flexible workplace, it's, you know, participation, it's all of those kinds of things.
Perfect. I actually had a question come through to me. It might be kind of working off what you just said. How do you get into consulting, or how do you start consulting? It's a common question from applicants as well.
Well, can I take that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason that I said what I said in the last comment was I remember graduating with my Bachelor of Commerce, and I came home to my parents and I said, none of the job postings are intriguing to me. They were a lot of the functional areas of expertise. They were finance, they were accounting, they were marketing, there was HR, but I still said to my dad, there's just nothing here that matches me. And he said at that time, you know, the expression was, you know, get out there and knock on doors and find out. And I did. Like, I, at the time, got on the subway, went into Toronto, and, you know, I was armed with a really great resume with hint, everyone. You should be working on your marketing documents.
Yes.
And I often say doing a resume, it doesn't get you the job. Most importantly, it prepares you for the questions that come at you, right? Because you don't hire someone to write your resume because it's got to be you that goes through the agony of building that document. And then when they come at you, you know, tell us about your group dynamics capability, you're ready. So when I went out there and started knocking on doors there, I wanted consulting, and everybody said, there's no way a Bachelor of Commerce student who has minimal experience is going to get that. Well, I found one, and it was a junior consulting position that was paying significantly lower than any of my colleagues in the Bachelor of Commerce were getting, but it got me in the door. And it was with, at that time, one of the big houses, one of the big organizations that offered strategic human resource management consulting. So I will tell you, you can get in with a small, medium, or large size firm. You're not starting out on your own, that's for sure. You got to, you know, earn some experience, earn your stripes, and eventually make your way in and decide on the area that you love. I didn't realize at the time. They were exposing me to all different types of human resource management areas to focus on. Here's a client that needs some help with their training and development programs. Here's a client that needs help with their compensation management. What I ended up loving right from the get-go was, you know, the leadership coaching piece. So I don't know if that helps, but don't let anybody tell you that you can't make your way into a junior position in an area that you love and gradually make your way. The other way to get into consulting is to work in organizations first and find out what the area is that you love, and then make your way into a consulting firm that opens that up.
Yeah, I was also in consulting for a while, a self-employed consultant. And for me, that was the wrong choice. I like the security of a large organization. I like working for a name organization. Again, these are things you have to understand. So how did I get into consulting? I'd been in banking, and I went back to school. I went to Ivy for my MBA. I was head of the consulting group. I was a consultant, and I was head of the consulting group at Ivy. Now, you don't have to wait that long. From what I understand from my frequent interactions with Sue McCracken, who's our Associate Dean of Academic, he'll be talking to you in a couple of hours, we are now developing this whole co-curricular set, right? 1 Grow, 2 Grow, which I'm working on right now, 3 Grow, 4 Grow. 3 Grow will be a community engagement project, and 4 Grow, which will be the the co-curricular to do in fourth year will be a consulting project. So we're laying some groundwork here that we haven't laid before. But yeah, there are internal consultants, external consultants. So yeah, if you get into an organization and into the HR organizational change, then, you know, there are definitely roles within that as well. There are, you know, people who have to run their own consulting practices may need, you know, somebody to assist in various ways. So, you know, definitely a number of different possibilities to get into that. Problem solving, right, is the thing. So, you know, go into case competitions and other things where, you know, like OBCC and JDCC, and there are a few others, where you're familiar with this process, right, of diagnosing, you're confident in your recommendations, those kinds of things. Okay, I'm looking at this question here. If you're not sure which area of focus to do, but want to develop management skills, which fourth year courses do you recommend the most? Well, actually, we used to have this third year course, right, which is ending this year. And what we realized is you need those things sooner, way sooner rather than later. And so this is going to come more through the co-curriculars plus some changes to curriculum. So we have so to grow, I'm working on developing right now, and we're going to put problem solving in there, persuasive communication, things like performance management, things like that. We're kind of still working on, but also we have another colleague, Yair Burson, who is doing a leadership development program that's going to run alongside the Bachelor of Commerce program as well. And he's going to be putting in a lot of those kinds of things into that set of initiatives. So we aren't just about courses, right? We're about the whole person. In the new negotiation course, which will be a second year course starting in 2022, that's going to be a lot about interpersonal skills and conflict resolution. So we're, instead of just having a course, right, we're building all of these things as we kind of go along. So yeah, but in terms of a fourth year course, I would say take Teal. Go with Teal. She'll go, she's leadership, but you know, the other stuff is embedded right in those things. Well.
You're gonna laugh at this. I just wrote that back. Of course, my course.
Actually, I always hear from students as well, take Teal's fourth year course.
Yeah, we're a mutual. I mean, the third year course, management skills, what we do is a lot of self-diagnostics, a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of skill development and you know, cases and all that kind of thing. But our realization over the last 5 years, actually, I've been teaching it, was we needed that stuff sooner. You couldn't wait till third year. You needed those things a whole lot sooner, and that's why they're getting embedded a little bit lower down.
To your point about Dr. Berson, that's where it's going to be really great because he's starting it earlier, right? He's going to start a lot of the stuff there, paralleling and scaffolding across your 4 years. So I'm very excited about that.
Right. Because the thing is about skills, right, is you have to practice them. So if you only have one course at fourth year, you have no opportunity to practice this stuff. What you'll have, though, by the time you get to Teal's course, is you will have a better understanding of yourself than, you know, people have maybe had in the past. And then you can take it even to a higher level, right, within her course as well.
Good plug. Thanks, Frances. Good plug.
You owe me one.
I just want to share. So all of our in-course students will take 3SO3. It's the students that are starting next year who have the new negotiations course in the second year. All of our in-course students will do the 3SO3, and we're going to have a double cohort of 3SO3 and the new Commerce 2 Engine 3 as well.
Okay, should be interesting. I teach that one too, myself and my colleague Carolyn, I think has been teaching with me. Awesome. So yeah, we have that one in a nice package. Yeah. Kind of like, and it worked well online actually this year. Yeah. So, you know, hoping we can, you know, all get back together in person, but we are very adaptive in our area, probably leading a lot of areas in terms of being adaptive. So another pat of ourselves on the back there.
We just have a bit of time left, but I do have a few questions. I have one that I think would be good for Lauryn to answer.
Yes.
How can you get involved starting in your first year? And if you're interested in HR.
That's a great question. Generally, I would say check out the clubs that DeGroote has to offer. That's specific. How can you get involved in HR? Of course, I'm going to plug the DHRA. Memberships, even though they were virtual this year, they were just available through our website or our Instagram. It's easy to purchase a $5 membership, and that gives you access to events throughout the whole year. So if you are looking, whether it's at the beginning of years in your upper years, or you are a first year and you're kind of thinking, how else can I get involved outside of the classroom? Definitely tap into those resources that DeGroote has to offer that aren't just academic, right? So like I spoke a little bit about with the clubs providing study strategies and networking events, there may be something that you can just carve out in your schedule to attend one of these 1 hour sessions, or even following on social media and scrolling past some HR stats and facts, or we'll post things like the LinkedIn Learning courses and different certifications that are free and resources like that. So that's a way maybe that if we're still kind of in a virtual capacity for a little while, you can be getting involved without really too much worrying about where you are, whether you're on campus or at home. So I would say just start by doing a little digging into what DeGroote clubs have to offer, specifically DHRA.
That's a great answer, Lauren. I think you're absolutely right. And you mentioned LinkedIn, and not just for LinkedIn Learning. Sign up, folks, for the LinkedIn Talent blog. Comes out almost every week. It's the hot news about what's hot in HR, what people are thinking about. It's just a short read every week. You know, you can have it come into your mailbox. That's an excellent way to be in the field right now. There are groups on LinkedIn for HR professionals. So sometimes you have to be working before they'll let you in, but no, very, very nice there. I do want to mention one other thing that came to mind when I saw Mary. I saw your comment here is what interests me. I want to understand. One of the other opportunities we offer is research. I do a number of research projects on HR. One I have right now is, which hopefully the people will go out this year, we hope. What employers think of student grades, and most of the time it's, I don't care. They certainly don't care the way you care. So there's that kind of thing going on. Now that depends on, funding and everything else, but we do have an opportunity, and you can do this in any area actually, which is our independent study course, which is 4SY3, I think it is. So the way that works is you find a topic of interest, you find a faculty member who would like to help you go through that process, and you go through a short research type of project. It can be just looking at the existing research and summarizing what we know about something, or it can be finding some data, actually collecting some data or finding some data that's available and analyzing that, right? So again, anything that you do that kind of sets you apart from people who've just taken courses is a really good thing. Right? Because when people hire, and to your point, Mary, here is how they choose. You're very similar, right? When it comes to degrees and even grades, if they looked at them, you've got to have something that gives us a bit more understanding of who you are and what makes you tick. And, while you're willing to go outside your comfort zone and, initiate something. So those are kind of the key employability skills for this year. So consider that one if you're going along. I had students do projects on management consulting in China, student do a project on how to recruit people to Dryden, Ontario, which is way far north. And actually that's the recruitment assignment in my recruitment selection course this term. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can say, I'm interested in this and I want to find out how can I do something with that too.
I usually do at least one of these a year with a per-year student. And it's nice too, because it can also be a combination of something that I'm interested in and the student is interested in, and it also allows us to work together, which I think is really, really good for the students. So do consider the 4SY3.
I actually talked to an applicant recently who was saying they spoke with a faculty member last year about this course. So I think it might have been one of you.
Yep.
I think you've helped convert them because of that conversation.
Good.
So we are almost out of time. So if anyone has any other questions, you can feel free to put it on Discord. You can email Lauren at the DeGroote Human Resources Association, or you can email us at buzzcom@mcmaster.ca. So we're going to end with a final question. And the question is a little bit related to HR. You're probably the best area to answer this. Do you have any tips on self-management or self-care during the pandemic and working from home?
Wow. I would also add self-compassion. The expectations we put on ourselves. Be careful with that. We're all doing the very best that we can. There's no rule book on how we're walking through this. And I would really be cautious about the boundaries between, I don't know about you, Francis, but my neck pain, because all of us, we're constantly at this and there doesn't seem to be any boundaries. The techno stress that we're experiencing is also because this goes on round the clock, and it's harder during pandemic and during virtual learning and in our environment to chop it off, to draw the line. So I think it's, and we're going, I have my 2 classes of leadership development right now, and every student in their action plan for making change has to do with techno stress, drawing the boundaries, protecting personal space, really, involving themselves in things that are about them as opposed to just school or just their work. What would you say, Frances?
No, totally agree. Absolutely, about boundaries. I read a great article the other day about the difference between time management, to-do lists, and schedule building. And you need to build a schedule out 2 weeks where you schedule in downtime. You schedule friend time if you have any. I don't have a lot, but I have a few good friends. You need to schedule in going for a walk. You need to schedule in just sitting down and doing nothing. All of these kinds. So build a schedule. Think about things in terms of marginal return. Let's throw a little financial topic in here. For the hour you spend on this, what are you going to get out of it? If you're going for, the difference between this grade and that grade, I can tell you, apart from you and maybe scholarship people, nobody cares. The hour that you spend investing in a relationship, which is what social capital is, of various kinds, looking at, job descriptions to help identify your future, just, looking after your physical health, all of those kinds of things, much bigger return. So you really need to be objective. And this is one of the things that we teach in 3SO3 is how to be objective. And it's the foundation of critical thinking in any field is you have to be able to look at something from different perspectives. And you have to be able to understand, why am I making the decisions? And this is a big thing of Teal's is, if you change the way you think, then things will happen after that. And so, we got locked into, well, I need to be, the perfect son or daughter. I need to be the perfect student. I need to be this. I need to have achieved this by the time I'm 30. I need to have done this, that, and the other thing. And those things can be very, very destructive. So you really need to value more things than a degree. Degree is important. Okay. In today's world, you need pieces of paper, and you need increasing number of pieces of paper. But life is also important. I have seen executives leave a company, until you've worked with these people too, right? Nobody remembers them. Even the president of the bank I used to work for, gone 2 years, there weren't that many people mentioning his name anymore. So you really need to kind of keep this perspective, right, about what is happening. And learn how to roll with the punches a little bit more. So you don't, get yourself going down the spiral. I had a paper rejected recently. It burns, burns quite a lot, but it's okay. All right. They got some feedback. I'll think about what I want to do with that. These are things I couldn't do when I was your age. So I would say, reach out, for help. If you are feeling out of control, if you're feeling stressed, reach out for help. I left university after my first year because I was super bright, but I couldn't cope emotionally with some things that had happened. Now my life has turned out very well, but we have resources right now, and it's okay to say, right? And Teal and I said this to each other the other week. Both of us were like, oh, God. We're struggling a bit. It's okay, right? We have people. And, these are the things that you need to do. Okay. So all of those kinds of things, schedule other parts of your life in, and don't let these other things creep into that. Okay.
That's great. I think that's very helpful for all the students that are watching and will be watching later, and for me. So thank you. So that was great. Thank you so much. We're here to help if anyone has any questions. If someone's watching this recording later, please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to the DeGroote Human Resources Association, or reach out to us on Discord or through BuzzCom. But thank you, and thank you to all the people that are thanking us. Where can you find the recording? We're going to post it on YouTube after, probably in the next few weeks. And you'll get a notification though. Thank you so much. Have a good day and good weekend.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye now.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.